Hello, everybody. Welcome to a new episode of your Fredcast. Welcome, ladies and gents. My name's Gary, and here I am once again. Welcome. Good to see you. It's a chilly, rainy, and of course, cloudy Friday. So, what should be better for us to start talking about the weather, or more specifically, the climate changes? Uh, what could be better for this topic, and considering the weather we have today, this rainy and cloudy day I've just mentioned? What better than a hot cup of coffee or tea or a hot soup? Why not? As I say, whatever it takes for you to relax and join me in this conversation. I gotta go with a gigantic disclaimer before I start talking about this topic. I am not an expert. I almost never talk about things of my area here, which is linguistics. But that doesn't preclude, or at least it shouldn't, in my opinion, prevent us. That should not prevent us, in my opinion, from speaking about things, from raising topics, to creating discussion around very important subjects in our society. And this is, if not the most important one of the most important. And I have seen, for my sadness, I would say, this discussion being taken to, well, I humbly must say, it's my opinion, to not an idealistic direction. Okay, I will explain further on. Just stick with me, relax. As I say, this podcast's main purpose is having you listening to words in English and learning new words and taking your comprehensive skills, your listening skills, to a higher level, day after day, episode after episode. So don't take me too seriously, but don't ignore this message. Don't ignore the following message, which is not what I'm about to say. What I'm about to say in this episode is merely my opinion. But the message that I want to say, that is the most important, that I would ask you to not ignore it, despite of any agreements or disagreements with the words, with the things I'm about to say right now in this episode, is never try to push to under the carpet, or to how can I put it, turning to a taboo certain topics, and this is one of them. But without further further taboos, let's just jump into it. Let's do it. All right, so making a brief background from when and where people started talking about the dangers of climate changes, and of course, consequently, when people started observing the climate changes. Okay, well, it was around the 70s, especially with the discussion about petroleum. Scientists back then already had an idea of what, or of how polluting such fuels, such chemicals were to the nature, right? The presence of CO2, and how much this could just easily end up in our atmosphere. So this is where the red sign was first raised, so to say. And then after that, more movements started joining, and of course, parallel to that, science already knew that the trees were like were on the other spectrum of that pollution, meaning they were responsible for turning CO2 into oxygen, pure oxygen. So they're the lung. The term started being said. The trees were the lung of the world. And then, of course, later, many years later, they started saying that the Amazon forest is the lung of the world. I don't want to get into that point specifically, but it wasn't until the 80s, and more intentionally the 90s, that this became a political topic, right? And as any political topic, it tends to, in my opinion, very sadly, tends to become something uh, packed with hatred and with prejudice. Okay, let me explain that. If you talk about climate change, and for those of you English learners, there's a very cool, interesting difference between the two words that we don't have in Portuguese, because we talk about the weather, we say clima, right? The word climático, as in mudanças climáticas, is related to clima, right? So we could say, you could say, or think about saying weather changes, right? But weather changes would mean in English a much more like, oh, it's raining now and then stopped raining, it's cold today and then it's warm next week, okay? So when you want to talk about uh, climate, as in a period, as in a continent, for example, and of course, mudanças climáticas, you say climate changes, all right? Climate, CLIMAT, okay, in case you don't know. So yeah, if you start talking about, I was saying that this has become a political topic, and as a political topic, it's full of hatred and prejudice. I'll give you an example. If you talk to anyone about climate change today, chances are that either they're big denialists of climate change, like, wow, that such thing doesn't exist, it's all a lie, it's all BS, forgive my French, or the other way around. If you just merely question something like, hey, could this not be exactly as they are saying, you're the devil, you're a denialist, so it's too extreme, truth of the matter. And if this alone were not something really, really bad, which is, of course, not satisfied, I get to the conclusion that it is almost impossible to talk about it today. Okay, when I say talk about it today, I mean talk in a healthy way. What is it? Talking something in a healthy manner, in a healthy style, in a healthy fashion. Well, is it when you are honest, 100% honest with your understanding, with your knowledge, okay, the knowledges you have, you have acquired during your life and the experiences you have lived. When you're 100% genuine, when you're not trying to fit into this or that group, okay, this is what I mean by, this is one end of the healthy discussion, and the other hand is basically the same thing, but on the other side, with a different perspective, with a different understanding. Of course, I'm not saying that anyone could discuss with anyone. So what would be the point of me discussing with a expert, with a meteorologist, a doctor, someone who really understands about weather and climate changes? I would be in a position to ask questions, and I would ask a lot, and then I would come to my conclusions eventually, okay? But with your brother, your neighbor, friends, boyfriend, well, this is something that people should be talking about, because at the end of the day is the majority of population that will define the direction we will take as a society, in order to, related to climate change. What were we going to do or not do about it? So I'm gonna go straight to the point. Well, from now on, this is me only, okay? I'm not quoting any scientists. I'm quoting my own experience as someone curious and someone who tries to be involved in political debates and read about it, understand more, and eventually get integrated into this area one way or another. Well, I understand that first of all, climate changes are a fact. I never saw, if you did see anyone, just let me know in the comments section below. I never saw anyone respectable, I would say, in terms of expertise, which doesn't include me, of course, but someone respectable in terms of knowledge and expertise, saying that climate change does not exist. They all say it exists. Yeah, you may be surprised, aren't you? You may be so much surprised because you go like, oh no, some scientists say that climate changes do not exist. No, they don't. They don't. I'm telling you, they don't. What they do say, and that does not please the other side. And when I say the other side, I don't mean the other side of like the other side. Excuse me, the other scientists that do not agree with him or that are prone to have a different opinion about it, are inclined to have a different perspective or understanding of that of these or those specific points under this umbrella, this big umbrella called climate change is topic. Okay, but they all come to the agreement one way or other that climate changes exist. Climate changes are factual. Okay, and we're observing that. We're seeing that with our very eyes, with our own eyes. Okay. What is the question? What is it that some scientists say that has turned them into pariahs? I hope I'm using this word correctly. Forgive me if I'm not. Pariahs, like people not accepted, like villains. They're being painted as villains. What are they saying? Some of the scientists, although it seems to be a minority, I'll make some projections about it further on, but what they question basically is like, is it really 100% caused because of the CO2 emissions that humanity produces? That's the question, and these guys don't seem to come to the conclusion that the humanity, making a long story short, humanity is to blame for the climate changes, or is humanity the main cause of it? Maybe it's not a matter of is or not. It's a matter of how much is humanity really responsible for a climate change. Those are questions posted, and the scientific community doesn't seem to come to a agreement about it. And it's not up to me as a person outside of this, as a person without an expertise in this area, to say who's right or wrong. But both sides seem to have, when I look at it as a normal person, both sides seem to have pretty sensible arguments, pretty sensitive arguments. Excuse me. Okay, pretty sensible arguments, meaning arguments that make sense. Okay, so arguments that make sense. Because if you still talking about like, hey, is it 100% or not humanity to blame? Is humanity's fault the climate changes? Isn't it some solar activity cycle, which some of these scientists, by the way, present? I mean, all the scientists in this area seem to come to an agreement that the sun does have cycles. Some years tend to be hotter, naturally tend to be hotter than others. And when I say hotter, it's not just a little bit, slightly hotter. It's like considerably hotter. 1 degree Celsius, 2 degrees Celsius hotter than others. Okay, so this is also a fact, But what scientists that say that global warming is 100% humanity's fault, or 80% or something close enough, it's more fault of more because of humanity than because of the sun, basically. What they say is that the cycles do exist, but the cycles are outwinning, quote unquote, like are becoming more and more. That's what I mean. Outwin. That's outdo, I would say, like are coming over, like getting higher and higher temperatures inside us. When you compare the cycles, for example, the peak of a last cycle, for example, with today's temperature, it's getting hotter and hotter. That's what the more mediatic, I will put it this way, scientists say. I say mediatic because the media seem to have the communication means, the big communication means, seem to have adopted this side of the discussion as the absolute winner, which they are entitled to do. Okay, it's their right. But this is my opinion, is one part of the problem, because like what really matters is like, is it discussed? Is not being discussed? Because let's stop and think. Okay, well, on one hand, it is a fact that would be better, it would be a collective interest to reduce gradually, but as at our earliest convenience as a planet, as a global community, let's put it this way, to lower the CO2 emissions. Well, that's the impression I have. I have to make a disclaimer in case you just played this episode in the middle of it. We're here, I'm right here. It is at this exact point. I'm not an expert. I'm just saying, judging by what I have read and heard about it, and my sole purpose is to having you reflecting upon it. Okay, all right. Because yeah, if it is 100% or more, considerably more, because of CO2 emissions, aka because of us, right? It is paramount that we stop producing these, gases, because it's a matter of will we have a place to live in the future? Okay, but if it's not, on the other hand, our fault, why are we running to shut down companies, block the economy, which is not doing just great, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, post-COVID, post-war, wars going on all over the world, and we're just artificially suffocating these companies, only to pay a price of not having jobs, or not having as many jobs, or having a global economy way below what it could be, in exchange for nothing. Because if it is indeed, as I was saying, more of a natural cycle, solar cycle, meaning the sun, we're gonna be jobless, and we're gonna be facing the consequences of weather, of climate changes anyways, well, I believe, so we just head to the last part of it. I believe we could, and we need to take a middle ground, okay, to say, hey, okay, it could not be exactly our fault, but it's a fact we're doing it wrong. Okay, let's try to clean our energy. Let's do our best. And I see humanity trying, and doing it in certain level. So I'm an optimistic. I believe that we will have lowered the CO2 emissions by the end of this. Certainly by the end of the century, but by the end of the half of the century, by 2050, for example. All the countries are committed to do that. So we will, and then we will see how much of it is really impacting these changes in our environment, in our weather, in the global fauna, so to say, and flora. But until there, I think that the best we can do is to try to talk about it, try to address this very important subject with less hatred, okay? Meaning, listen to the other side, okay? Make your studies upon it. Make your studies on what the other side is saying, and help him or them to realize what you have already realized, as far as this subject is concerned. And that's what I would like to say about it. I would really like to and love to, as I just said all the time during this episode, to hear your opinion. Let me know what you think about it. Let's have this discussion going and let's make the world better. Okay, let's reduce the CO2 emissions because this is something at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, that we all can make a difference about. You know, say for example, you got home right now and you forgot you to buy something, and it's 2 or 3 blocks from your house. Of course, if it's not dangerous or anything like that, why don't you go walking? Why don't you take your bicycle? Oh, you don't have a bicycle. Why don't you buy one? Okay, I don't have a bicycle, by the way, but it's on my list of things I need to buy. But I walk a lot. I love cardio. You know, like I love exercising and doing cardio sessions. You know, this will make your health better. Period. And this will make the nature better, okay? Regardless of the real reason why the climate changes are there. Let's do our part. That's my opinion. Thank you so very much for your lovely company. Please don't crucify me. I'm not an expert. Don't take me seriously if you think what I said absolutely doesn't make sense. I can respect that, minus the part of where we need to have more respect and less hatred. This I don't open up. I don't accept any contrarieties to it. I believe we all should agree upon this, and we should discuss things in a more human and more respectful way towards each other. All right, thank you so very much. See you in the next episode. Bye bye.